Okay, welcome to my remote presentation. This is the second time I'm doing this presentation, so it will be a little bit different. So if you were there in New York, maybe there's some new information. Otherwise, very much welcome, and I hope this will be useful to you and your team on your API journey. The talk I'm doing today is about developer portals. Surprise, surprise. Normally I do talks about developer portals. But it's a little bit different because today I want to talk about like a big event that has happened, I think, in the developer portal market, and that I think you should be aware of if you're running an API program and you're thinking about either building a portal or you already have a portal and you're wondering like, why isn't it working or why isn't it doing what I think it should be doing? So, yeah, but before I get started, I got a little video for you.
My fair share of bumpy roads and heavy winds. That's what made me what I am today. Now I stand here before you. What you see is a body crafted to perfection, a pair of legs engineered to defy.
So I don't know if you that's got triggered out. So I don't know
My fair share.
if you remember that video. I'm not going to be talking about Jean-Claude Van Damme. He's also Belgian. I'm a Belgian. That's exciting, but now, what I'm going to talk about is internal versus external portals, and I'll explain later why I had that video as a start for this presentation. So, um, that video, there was one from Volvo Trucks from a while ago. It was like it's called the epic split. Maybe that's a little bit of a hint. So what we have seen in our practice, so I talk with a whole lot of people about developer portals. I think hundreds of people that I've seen that were considering doing a developer portal, trying to figure out like how to do it. And the last couple of years, I started realizing that there's two very distinct types of portals that are emerging. One which is internal focused, which I'm going to call platform portal and explain a little bit later why. And one which is external focused, which I will call interface portals, and also that I'll explain a little bit later why. The core thing, as a kind of like a giveaway before I really dive in, is that the internal portals, they're very different because they have features like employee directory, API scorecards. You might be doing GitOps with them, inner sourcing. External portals, it's more about customer onboarding or partner onboarding, lead validation, developer marketing, DevRel, monetization, that kind of stuff, key provisioning, and so on. But before I dive deeper in, who am I and what am I doing here? So I'm Kristof van Tomme. I'm super honored that I ended up getting one of these API Days cartoon versions. Fine, after I'm really honored that I got one, and at the 10-year event. So I've been around in the API community for quite a little while. I'm a bioengineer by education. That's why I have incredible fascination for complex adaptive systems, like the sourdough starter Wilfried that you see me working on the right side. And I'm a CEO of a company called Pronovix. We're a company specialized in developer portals. We might be the only consultancy in the world that's fully dedicated to open source developer portals. I keep validating that. But basically what it means is that we have an open source product that we implement for our customers. So you can have an open source developer portal with a CMS backing the developer portal. And then we also do a bunch of services to help teams that have a portal or that want to build a portal. We run, if you're interested in dev portals, go and check out the free community. It's not a free, the physical events, the virtual ones were free. But the community events that we're running, API Days, API the Docs, a little bit nervous there. So API the Docs, next event will be in Amsterdam very soon, in 2 weeks from now. and the Dev Portal Awards, which is an award for developer portals, where you can learn what makes great developer portals and maybe also how to make your developer portal better. Or you can maybe even try to win an award. Anyway, with that, enough about us and kind of like my background. Let's go back to our story. So when we started doing developer portals almost 8 years ago, developer portals were primarily seen as a feature for API management solutions. Even until today, the analysts are still evaluating API management solutions on the quality of their developer portal that's included in there. And for a very long time, API developer portals have been seen kind of like as part of that whole product. You need to be able to do self-service, so you need a developer portal where people could go and actually get their API keys and stuff like that. But and back then, the developer portal was kind of like an interface for your API management solution. Core features were key provisioning, the catalog, self-service, improving developer experience, whatever that means. If you want to know more about that, got other talks about that and blog posts about that. But basically, it was about how can we help to reduce the friction for developers in their onboarding processes and in their use of our APIs. And then these portals were focusing on different types of audience. It could be internal, partners, customers, whole industry. We built portals for pretty much any combination of these things, sometimes like one portal for both audiences, both internal and external, or for both partners and internal, or using role-based access controls and things like that. And that all worked fine, and that was all fine. But lately, this started evolving further. And what we started seeing was that there's two types of portals with different capabilities that are kind of emerging, that are drawing capabilities from different domains. And this is new because before, developer portals were all about APIs, mostly. And lately, what we've seen is that this is starting to change. And developer portals are becoming kind of like a central place where developers go for very specific purposes. And so there's the internal type of portal, which is about API governance, getting your organization to reuse the APIs, developer onboarding, having a complete service catalog. And then what we started seeing is that like the DevOps world and the Kubernetes world and the inner sourcing world started looking at how can we, they also were looking for internal developer portals. So what I think is happening is that these different purposes are merging into its own category, into its own tool that allows you to do any or all of these things at the same time. So if you're trying to improve reuse in your organization by using open source like processes, you could be looking at implementing inner source in your internal development portal. You might be doing GitOps or any of these other things that are connected to this world. Then on the outside, external developer portals are also differentiating. There's been like a lot of larger organizations have been looking at how can we build a marketplace, how can you monetize APIs, how can you build partner ecosystems, developer relations. And then what we started seeing fairly recently is that external portals are also merging with like developer documentation to create like developer hubs where you can go as a developer and learn anything you need to know to be able to interact with a company, and developer centers that go way beyond just providing API documentation. So the internal portal I like to call platform portal because it's about creating an internal developer platform that is going to facilitate development inside of your organization. And the external portal I'd like to call an interface portal because I believe it's about creating an interface with the outside world and kind of like controlling that interaction, or try to, maybe not control, but try to constrain that interaction with the outside world. So platform portals, in recap, enable and encourage reuse. So I think they're all about reusing and getting more reuse happening in your organization. And then interface portals constrain how the world interacts with you. And this is something I've learned last year when we were doing a deep dive into complexity science, well, complexity philosophy, and how it interacts with the API world and the developer world. Was this concept of enabling constraints. This is something that Alicia Guerrero really made popular with the book that she wrote, Dynamics in Action. She's coming out with a new book, and I'm really excited about it. I haven't seen it yet, but she talks about enabling constraints as constraints that constrain something, but through constraining also enable new things. And it's a really interesting concept. Like the simplest way that I explain it to people is that if you ask someone, can you name me 5 or 10 things, they're going to have a harder time than if you ask them, can you name me 10 animals? It's much easier to, when you constrain creativity, that's like one example of this enabling constraint. But that's maybe not the best example, but it kind of shows like that concept of constraining to enabling. But actually, if you think about APIs, they're almost the apocryphal enabling constraints, because what they do is that they constrain the information that is being exchanged to a very strict or very specific contract. And by constraining, they make it actually much, much easier to interact with a third party, and for the third party to interact in a safe way with the outside world. And this is this concept of enabling constraints is what complex adaptive organisms do to manage the complexity of the world. So this is how you can deal with an infinite world around you with a finite set of affordances inside of you. And basically, what living cells and living organisms do is that they only let in what feeds them, or they try to. It's not always working, but like with viruses, that might get hijacked. These enabling constraints actually get hijacked. They also, enabling constraints help us to interact with symbionts, and it's these that often can be tricky. And they also, to some extent, unless it's like a very specialized organism, can keep out what harms them. So it's so this is how complex adaptive systems deal with the world around. Now, I believe that, and this is kind of a little bit of a side story because it's 2023 and you can't do a slide deck without something AI. I believe that APIs are essential for AI readiness, both internally and externally, especially because of what I just explained, this concept of enabling constraints, because they allow you to constrain the information flow with the outside world. I think we're about to be bombarded by AI bots that are trying to become our best friends and try to sell us stuff. And I think that the only way we're going to be able to deal with it is by having our own AI bots that, help us to constrain information flow and help us to select what makes sense for us. And this is just a very trite example, but I think it goes much, much deeper. So, if you're not doing APIs yet, you really need to be doing APIs soon, because I think it's going to become very, very important. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about this platform and interface thing, because and why I believe that this is the right way of classifying things. Why I believe that the way that we're currently doing developer portals, I have a technical solution, I've got an API management solution, and it has a developer portal. That's a very limiting way of doing things. And I've got a philosophical answer for this from Jay Bloom, who used to work at Red Hat. He's now working in his own consultancy. He's super smart. If you're looking for someone to help you deal with complexity or problems like this, go and check him out. He also has a podcast, and if there's a way to share it for for the notes with the talk. I'll try to do that, or we'll have it in our blog post. I'll have references to him when we also publish the video recording. And what Jay Bloom talks about is he talks about the three economies model. And he starts by explaining this. This is from an old Gartner video that I found, where he explains this, where he says that there's traditionally in bimodal IT, you had economy of differentiation, like the business, and you had the economy of scale, the IT side. And then between those two was this wall of confusion that was making it like difficult to work with each other. So what he talks about is that actually to make this work, you need a third economy. So you have the economy of differentiation, which is about accelerating innovation, novelty, experimentation, incubation. Economy of differentiation is about creating differentiated products, creating variety to help to address market needs in a better way. The economy of scale, which I think we're most familiar with, is about reducing variability so that you can regulate, create a more reliable thing, reduce costs because you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, and so on. And then there's a third economy, which he calls the economy of scope, which is about creating new value by creating reusable pieces. It's like creating value by having things that become better from reuse. And because these things, these building blocks, this is like actually what you're trying to do with a platform. These building blocks help you to accelerate, help you to enable new variety and optionality, also help you to do things at scale. So what he talks about is that basically this economy of differentiation and economy of scale are coupled together through this economy of scope that helps you to accelerate and to also be more resilient at the same time. And now, what I've been thinking about, it's 2 weeks ago, a week ago that I did the talk, so I had to go and check back. What I've been thinking about is that this economy, the economy of differentiation, this is the place where you're interacting with the outside world. It's where you are creating and capturing value from your customers. The economy of scale is the inside world where you're trying to like build infrastructure that's very useful. And then that is intermediated by this economy of scope that is giving you like a set of building blocks that are an interface to that economy of scale and to those shared capabilities that you have in your organization. So what I believe is that this is where interface portals live in the economy of differentiation. They're about creating variety and creating a developer brand and all these things that help you to create and capture value in the world. And then a platform portal, this is here. This is where you're trying to create an economy of scope so that you can do differentiation and scaling at the same time. So, and then an internal platform portals are about reusable shared resources that help you to accelerate and reduce maintenance and infrastructure and so on and so on. You have to watch out here though, because I believe that like you can't go and create a platform directly. I think this is an oblique goal. If you're not familiar with the concept, this is super, super interesting. It's something that was pointed out to me by Mark Bergauer, my complexity friend, and former co-host of the podcast we did around the complexity topic, where he explained to me that there are certain things that if you try to achieve them directly, it just doesn't work. And I think that platform is one of those things. If you try to build a platform just by building it, I think it's very easy to fail. I think that the best way to create a platform is to do it the way that ants do things, is to use a stigmergic process where as people build things, and other people start reusing it, you make it easier and you create like a system that makes it easy to reuse what has already been built. And I think that's actually what a platform portal does. And so I believe that if you want to create a platform in your organization, you should have a platform portal that helps you to create these kind of mechanisms in your organization. External portals, on the other hand, are about differentiation, about generating and capturing value in the market. And that happens through developer brands and through differentiation of your interfaces. Although that, be careful, I think that eventually API design will become a utility. It will become a commodity, or APIs will become a utility and API design will become a commodity. Or we'll start seeing more and more standards emerging for different capabilities that organizations try to do. So I believe that in the long run, differentiations in the API economy will be about the service that you're providing and about the brands, and not necessarily about API design. This is maybe a contrarian idea. If you disagree, I would love to hear why, and maybe even have a conversation about it. But yeah, I believe that this is really important, and this is, I think, what one of the core values of doing developer portals is to create that developer brand and that digital interface brand, so that people see that you're ready for that kind of things. So yeah, one core thought like about this warning. As I said, I believe that APIs will evolve from products to utilities, or in a lot of cases, and that today having APIs is still a differentiator, but really quickly this is becoming table stakes. Everybody has to have APIs, and that I believe that eventually external APIs will become a utility as designs standardize. So what this all means is that developer portals, well, this doesn't mean that, but I think that developer portals will be shifting from being about APIs only to become their own thing with a clear, broader purpose. And this is why I call them interface portals, because they're not just there to publish application programming interfaces, but also other interfaces, like things that require less coding to interact with an organization. So what is this deal with Jean-Claude Van Damme? Like, why did I show that? Well, I believe that you shouldn't be doing this. So I think that it's not a good idea to try to create one portal that is doing both things at the same time. I think it's better to let both of these portals go their own way and not do the epic split. No matter how brave and how powerful and fit you are, let's leave the splits to Jean-Claude Van Damme. But instead to look at, like, how can you bridge between these two portals? Can you create an internal portal that's really focused on creating a platform? Can you create an external portal that's really focused on creating this differentiated developer brand and value for your customers? And then how do you publish from one portal to the next? And how do you set those processes up so that you can be really quick and really agile in your API management? And so that's, in summary, I think that's trying to create one portal for everything is risky, because it's too easy to end up in a we'll just publish everything we have kind of thing, without like a clear purpose and an architecture that helps you to make something meaningful that people want to interact with and that actually provides value to your organization. And that it's better to split these two functions into two separate things: an internal platform portal, an external interface portal, and then figure out processes and tools to connect these two with each other. We have done all three, or we've been part of all three with customers. So if you want to learn more about how we could help you with that, or how you could do it yourself, get in touch. I'd love to have a chat about all of this or any of the subparts of it. And that's all for my presentation. Thank you very much for watching till the end. Hope to speak you sometime, maybe at one of these conferences in live, or on one of the virtual events, the upcoming virtual events that we organize, or that the Apidays community organizes. Thank you for your attention.